This episode of Crowdscene was recorded back when the show was called Kickstars. So every time you hear the words Kickstars, think Crowdscene. You can now find us at crowdsceneshow.com and also follow us on Twitter at crowdsceneshow. Thanks for listening.
Kickstars.
In this episode of Kickstars, we're fortunate to be speaking to Rebecca Melsky and Eva St. Clair, aka Princess Awesome, two Washington, D.C. moms who took Kickstarter by storm. They share their story, their tips on running a successful campaign, and they talk about what it took to make their plan a reality.
We really thought, we could be putting money down a black hole, this might not work. And Rebecca's husband very kindly said, look, we can spend this money and you can give it a shot. And if we are out that money, fine, then we're out that money, but you tried. And now I'm really proud of us that we actually jumped in the water and we tried it.
Kickstars, gonna kick it with Pete and Mike. Kickstars, interviews behind the hype. Kickstars.
Hi there.
Hello.
Welcome to Kickstars, the show about successful crowdfunding campaigns and the people who make them happen. I'm Michael Ogden.
And I'm Peter Dean.
In each episode of Kickstars, we speak with people who've taken a risk by turning an idea of theirs into reality by raising money on a crowdfunding platform. But what did it take to reach their goal? I like to hear the story behind the idea, understand where their concept came from, and learn what it meant to find success.
And I'm interested in how you design and run a successful campaign, as well as what our guests have learned along the way. We'll talk about the factors that can make or break a campaign.
So in this episode, we're excited to have Rebecca Melsky and Eva St. Clair. We'll be hearing about their successful Kickstarter project to make clothing for girls that doesn't play to gender stereotypes. Their company is called Princess Awesome.
In their own words, Rebecca and Eva describe Princess Awesome like this. Our dresses let girls climb trees, express their interest in dinosaurs, robots, trucks and airplanes, and be princesses. The demand for clothing that lets girls be girls of every variety is there, but the supply is not. These things simply don't exist in stores. Now, they wanted to raise $35,000. They eventually raised $215,000.
The number of backers?
They actually had more than 3,000 backers.
Let's meet our guests. Rebecca and Eva, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Mike, hi Pete.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We're so excited to have you both here. And congratulations on a massively successful campaign.
Thank you.
Let's set the scene. I mean, for our listeners who aren't familiar with your project, how would you describe it to someone who hasn't heard it before?
We are making girls' clothes for girls that have things on them that you usually don't find on the girls' side of the clothing store. Things like dinosaurs and trucks and robots and airplanes, things that typically are only on the boys' side of the clothing store.
We're also putting things on clothes that are not usually found on clothes in general, such as math and science and all kinds of fun and interesting things. We're trying to take clothing in a totally different direction.
Is it a surprise to see how far it's come?
Yes, we hoped that we could be successful, and we thought there was enough of a cultural conversation out there about the kinds of options offered to girls in the clothing stores and in toy stores as well. But we quickly moved into exceeded our wildest expectations territory.
Well, let's if we look back for a second, can you describe? I mean, I think this was born with you, Rebecca. Can you describe that day when your idea was born? Where were you when it happened?
My daughter, ever since she turned 2, only wanted to wear only dresses every day. And I loved buying them for her. And for her pajamas, I'd get her pajamas from both sides, girls and boys. And there was one day I was out at a store. Actually, sorry to my daughter for saying this, but I was out there. We were about to potty train her, and I needed to get a new set of pajamas that she could pull down and not just zip up. And so I went out to buy her a whole new set, and I got some from the girls' side and some from the boys' side. And as I was leaving the store, walked out past the girls' side again and thought, how come there aren't these cute dresses with dinosaurs or robots on them? Because she loves those pajamas and she loves dresses. And I figured, she'd love that too. How come that's not there? And the idea just kind of stuck in my head. And I turned to Eva and said, let's do this. And she said yes, and that was it. So the gap between you having the idea and you contacting Eva was minutes or days or? A couple days. I waited. We were having a little birthday picnic for me a couple weeks later. And so I asked her then. I had a 2-month-old baby, and Eva had 3 kids. And so there wasn't a whole lot of time to figure things out. So once we saw each other in person the next time, I said, I had this idea. Do you want to do it with
so
me?
you right away recognized that it had there was a business there. So the conversation that you and Eva had, I mean, can you describe that conversation?
Sure. We were standing outside in Rock Creek Park in Washington, D.C. on a beautiful morning. And Rebecca said, why isn't there a dress with a truck on it? I think Eloise would really wear a dress with a truck. And I said, that is a great idea. That's an idea whose time has come. I think that it's time that someone actually tried that. Why don't we try it? And how about we go to Value Village, which is my very favorite store in the whole world. It's a wonderful, gigantic thrift store the size of Walmart, and go buy a whole bunch of stuff and try to make something that would, that Eloise might be interested in wearing.
Do either of you have a background in this area?
Well, I actually entered college thinking that I would be a costume designer. So a lot of my sewing experiences in making costumes, which are kind of usually thrown together fairly quickly and they're not meant to hold up. So actually this came in handy for this particular project because we were just kind of trying out ideas. We weren't really trying to make something that, would last forever. And it's a good skill to have because it lets us make samples pretty quickly. So I know basically like how to cut and paste things together so that to get an idea of what something would look like.
But I have no experience in the clothing world or in the business world. So this was really brand new territory. And it's just been an extraordinary learning experience, this entire process for me.
Yes. Once we got into the actual manufacturing, we were both in very deep, new, dangerous waters.
So Rebecca, you had the idea, and then Eva, you had a background and some skills that could help make it a reality. What was the first step?
Sure. When we went to Value Village, we bought a bunch of dresses from the girls section and lots of shirts, mainly from the boys section, but some things from just random things that we managed to find. And we also bought all kinds of odds and ends like leotards and tights and tutus, sparkly drapes, all kinds of things that we thought we could cut and paste and put together. And what we actually came up with was a little dress that had a road on it. And we also attached a vehicle to it. And that was the beginning of the busy dress. And it took 3 or 4 tries to get it to where we really liked it. And it was a really big seller. It sold out repeatedly. We started actually making them on commission by our second year in business because we couldn't stock them. They sold as soon as we made them.
And just to kind of back up for a second, this was our first real idea, and it felt very much like a true collaboration. In that first meeting out in Rock Creek Park, when I mentioned this to Eva, I was like, I was just imagining like, one of these cute dresses I get for Eloise, but that has a road around the bottom, and a little car on it, just something simple and cute. And we had our first business meeting a week later. And I say business meeting, I'm doing air quotes because at the time it was just us having tea
us, yes.
and all of our children around. And Eva said, I was thinking about that. And what if we did the road, but there was also a pocket that was also like a garage, and there could be a little toy that you could drive around the road. And it was really kind of born from both of us working together. And I think that's one of the things that's been so great for me in this whole process is the collaboration that we've sort of found. We knew we liked each other and we're good friends, but I feel like we've just hit on this amazing collaborative relationship.
Yes, it's wonderful to have a partner to work with. Rebecca is extremely reliable, and she's very practical. So when I come up with crazy ideas, she says that's a crazy idea. We need to rein that in. And but on the other hand, like
you're incredibly creative and can think about clothes in a brand new way, and is also practical and down to earth.
Can you give us an example of one of these crazy ideas?
We had some ideas for stretch goals before we launched, but we kind of didn't want to jinx things by fleshing them out, and we didn't know how much we'd actually need them. And, we thought we wouldn't need them for well into the project. And we were really surprised by the success that we found and how quickly we found it. And so we were kind of, figuring out how to create stretch goals and what we should do as we were living through the project. And sometimes Eva's original ideas for stretch goals were well beyond anything that we could do, but they were great ideas. So we just had to figure out how to, make them work in practice.
Yeah.
It's kind of always good to think big and kind of work backwards from that.
Yes.
We tend to overreach. Like originally, I think I said to Rebecca in the middle of February when the Kickstarter was still running, so I've got this great idea. I think we should debut in August with our new store. We can have 10 lines, we can have scarves, we can have headbands. And Rebecca's no.
Well, can I ask,
Sure.
I mean, back to that first outfit that you made, did you test that with your daughter, the busy dress?
Yes, we did. And she loved it. She wore it. I have pictures of her the first time I put it on her. And she loved it and was driving her little car around on the dress.
Is that still part of your process and your design process where you're making something, then you're kind of testing it with kids?
Yes,
redesign?
Absolutely. Yes. We have because we both work with children all day, we know a lot of children. So
No, I know that Rebecca, you're a teacher, and how about you, Eva?
I'm at home with children, but I work as a web developer on the side.
So how do you both balance that? I mean, this is it must be a challenge right now.
Yes.
So part
That's a big yes.
It's kind of like as children grow, we can devote more time to the business, and we'll be able to take it slow. But that's one of the bigger challenges right now is we need to devote quite a lot more time to running our business.
Yeah, and we
thought we would.
And during Kickstarter, we didn't fully anticipate how much there was going to be to do, and various interviews and messages on Facebook and through Kickstarter. And luckily we have two wonderfully supportive husbands who are responding to messages for us and answering emails for us and telling us, hey, check your Facebook message. You've got another comment from a reporter. You need to get back to them.
We've actually had many of our friends and relatives too have helped us just keep up with the amount of work that's come in.
You mentioned briefly that you've been doing a lot of interviews, and certainly this project has really hit the headlines all over the world.
Yes,
a quick look at looking through the press section on your website, you've been interviewed by CBS, CNN, Huffington Post, and over here the Guardian and Daily Mail newspapers, which
and
are both huge.
Mike and Pete,
and now Kickstarter. I mean, the icing on the cake, right?
Absolutely.
Why do you think that your project has attracted quite so much attention?
I think that it's a combination of what we're doing, but then also the response to it. I think we certainly got much more press once the campaign kind of took off after the kind of post that launched us, which was the Mighty Girl post on Facebook. But I think it's really a combination of what we're doing and the response, because what people have communicated loud and clear is that they want more options for their daughters and their granddaughters and their nieces and their friends, and that they know, just like we do, that girls enjoy lots of things and they should have clothes that reflect all those things. And that's what people were communicating. And I think that's really the story and what made people turn to us to ask us about what we're doing, because so many people have kind of contributed to that story and made the story happen.
And I think I'm right in saying that your project has, isn't it the most funded Kickstarter project for children's clothing? Something like that. It's a record breaker in that respect.
Yes. Previous to us, there was a Kickstarter that brought in, I think, $35,000.
Just over $35,000.
Yeah, which is why when we set our goal, we really did not think we were going to, we were not sure we were going to make it. And not only were we not sure we were going to make it, we thought if we did make it, it would be really, really something.
Right.
Because then we would have made the most that any children's wear Kickstarter had made. We would have matched them. And when it went past that on the third day, we just we didn't know what to do because
Yeah, what a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
Well, so let's
wonderful problem to have.
Let's talk crowdfunding. When did you decide to crowdfund this, and why did you choose Kickstarter?
We were sitting outside having lunch one beautiful fall afternoon, adding up the costs to start our business, and they were just prohibitive. And we thought, there is absolutely no way that we can afford to do this on our own. And we talked very seriously about taking out a small business loan and some other options. And we thought crowdfunding was the way to go because we were 98% sure that there was a market for this. And we were also extremely confident that if we just managed to hit the right nerve, if we tapped the right vein, we would get enough press that it would fund.
Kind of going back, we backwards in our company a bit. When we first started, we made this first sample run of handmade dresses just to test the market and see if people wanted this kind of product, which they did clearly. And then we moved toward figuring out how to manufacture, which we sort of thought like, oh, it won't be that hard. And maybe for just $6,000, we can get out a small line of dresses. And there was no way with the minimums that companies require and all of the other components that have to go into creating clothing. We just couldn't. And we chose Kickstarter. We looked at some of the other crowdfunding platforms, but felt like kind of the cultural capital that Kickstarter has was valuable to us. And we figured that we were going to have to do our own press regardless, that we weren't going to get that Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever wasn't going to help us that much, that we were going to have to do it ourselves regardless of what we chose. So we kind of went that route. And also we had seen the success that other companies with similar kind of missions like Goldie Blocks or Girls Will Be had on Kickstarter, that we thought that would be the right place for us.
So once you chose Kickstarter and you decided that crowdfunding was best for you, did you get advice from people around you before you began the campaign?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We did a lot of research on how to run the campaign. When we first had that little meeting in October to discuss actually which way we were going to go, and we decided on Kickstarter, we said, okay, we'll get our page ready, we'll do all the financial background stuff, and we'll be ready to launch in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was seriously not the right.
No. And then I went home and I did a quick, how to run a successful Kickstarter project Google search. And it's like, I called Eva. I was like, no, we can't. Look at all of these things that we need to do. But from there, we figured, okay, if we took a few months, if we took 3 or 4 months, we could still launch in time to make our clothes and have them ready for the summer, because we knew that we wanted to do sleeveless dresses that we consider year-round wear, because you can always put long sleeves underneath, but we didn't want to be sending people sleeveless clothes at the start of fall. Right. So we needed to get it out by the summer. So we figured, okay, if we can, I think 3 or 4 months will be enough time to get ourselves ready to launch in February, which will still give us enough time to get our dresses out by the summer.
And so you said that your campaign goal was $35,000. Now, was that partly because that was the maximum previously raised, or was that a figure that came about through a need to provide for manufacturing and printing and so on?
So we are both married to economists, and they love their Excel spreadsheets. So before we set the goal, we spent quite a lot of time putting in costs into our Excel spreadsheet and hitting this useful button that says calculate cost. And so the button came back and said, here's the way to maximize, the whatever the cost is will get you this amount of materials that you can then sell. So the 35,000 happened to hit this really good spot between what the capital startup cost would be and the goal that we could actually reach. So that's why we picked that.
Right. And if anything, we went a little lower than what we really needed, figuring that we are happy to invest some of our own money. We have a lot of it in the past couple of years, but we didn't want to stretch too high, just because setting it as the the highest amount of money that anyone had ever raised in children. Already made us pretty nervous.
And I guess at this point you had built a community, because you've been doing Princess Awesome for a year and a half at that point. You had a mailing list or something that you could begin with?
We had a Facebook page. We still have a Facebook page. We had about 600 likes before we started, before we launched. And so we started doing some of the things that we found on that original page that I found that was some tips for running a successful Kickstarter. We started a blog on our webpage and we posted things regularly. We got about 200 likes, I think, between October and when we launched. We started a Twitter account, a Pinterest account, and then we also just started reaching out to journalists when there have been a variety of articles written here and there about the color pink or about girls' clothing. And so reaching out to them, reaching out to other companies with similar missions, reaching out to authors. And we started some of that earlier, in October and November, and then some we just did in the couple weeks right before the launch of the campaign. And then we spent our launch day sitting in my house sending hundreds of press releases to everyone we could possibly think of.
So that initially you mentioned that you thought, oh, this will take 2 weeks and then we'll start the campaign. What in the end was that pre-launch duration?
It was just about 5 months. It's
Yeah,
October, November, December, January. So 4 months.
Yeah.
We launched the beginning of February. Of course, we spent quite a lot of time working on our video. I mean, we spent, we hired a videographer and an editor. We spent a long time. The day that we shot, it took, the video took 4 or 5 hours. It went through several iterations of editing.
And we also realized that we really needed to have samples of our dresses to show. Did. So we went through a whole sample process and then a photo shoot that contributed to both the pictures on our page and in the video, spending time getting the page ready. And we spent a lot of time looking at other Kickstarters, both in children's wear and in other categories, to see what we liked about their campaigns and what worked well, what felt like it fit with us. So to put up images and other kind of PDFs and graphs and things like that.
The kind of messaging we wanted to put out there.
Have either of you done anything like this before?
Yes, I think that, so I have worked extensively in my career in writing grants, and this really felt a lot like writing a grant. You just have to think very carefully about where the money is going, what is going to appeal to the person who's going to, basically approve your grant, that sort of thing.
And though I have spent more of my adult life writing report cards than writing grants, we both, our target consumer is us, right? Is people our age, or not necessarily our age, but like of our kind of demographic and our philosophy of raising kids and what we want for our girls. And so we did have the benefit of trying to talk to people who we would be friends with.
Yes. Yeah. The title of the company, Princess Awesome, is so fantastic and kind of warm and memorable. Did that go through a few iterations before you chose Princess Awesome?
So we started out with Robot Princess. But when we did our little Google search to see if anybody had that, it turned out there's this kind of hardcore punk band with some questionable cover art that we did not really want to be associated quite as closely with. So
I turned to my husband right after we realized, okay, we can't be Robot Princess. And I was like, do you have an idea? And this was, very early.
Yes, we had, I think it was the summer.
Yeah, we were very early into our company. And he just turned around and said, "What about Princess Awesome?" And we were like, yes, that's
great.
it.
We'll do that.
And he actually told me not to, just a couple weeks ago when we were in the middle of our Kickstarter campaign, that his first thought was that we should call ourselves Princess Kickass, but then realized that we couldn't do that for children's clothing. And so Princess Awesome was the next best.
Nice work. That's great. So at this stage, you're about to launch the campaign. Did you have any big concerns before you pressed that button?
Yes. I was the most stressed and nervous that I think I've ever been in my life in the week before we launched. Feeling pulled in so many different directions, reading things about fashion design and that you need a certain number of clothing items to be a real line, and do we have enough, and are products too expensive or not expensive enough, and had we done enough media outreach, or had we, are we really as ready as we want to be? Yeah, so very nervous. And actually, one of the hardest days for me of the campaign was in the week right before. I posted on a Facebook Kickstarter support group, our preview page. I want to interrupt
and say we've never told anyone this story before.
Oh, because we are privileged.
Because this group I'd been following for a while, and people were really nice and gave lots of positive feedback. And we didn't get a ton of comments, like maybe 8 or 10, but basically everyone telling us that we weren't ready and hadn't done enough media outreach, and someone saying that we should take a few months and retool our campaign and do adult clothes, with just have the kids' clothes as a side focus. And then the last comment was someone saying that all these people are invested in our success. This should be like Christmas morning for us. Like, all these people telling us that we're not ready should be like Christmas morning. And I was really down and had probably my worst day was the next day, thinking like, oh gosh, like we're not ready. What are we going to do? And
Yeah, but the big thing that particular episode did to us, I think, was made us really question whether or not we would be able to find the number of backers we needed, because we had calculated, okay, if we're pricing it at $50 for the basic, what we thought would be our most popular reward, we have to find 700 people. And considering our Facebook page only had 600 likes, we were thinking, well, even if every single person backs us at $50, we still would not have made our goal. And that really was a hard week. And we were nervous,
very nervous. But the thing that I think those people kind of didn't realize was that we weren't looking for Kickstarter in any way to kind of help us get the word out, and that we knew the cultural conversation was going on about girls' clothing. And so we knew that if we could tap the right vein, and I remember saying to Eva, they might be right. And we might get to, March 5th when we're done, and I'll have to go back to those people and say, you were right, we should have waited. But I'm not so sure that they're right, that we should change our plan.
Right.
So let's keep going with what we think we can do. And if they end up being right, I will happily admit it. But it turns out they weren't. So that's good.
It all worked out pretty well. So, okay, we're going to take a very short break here. When we come back, we're going to get into the campaign itself.
Okay.
Hey everybody, a quick break to encourage you to sign up to our podcast at iTunes. To stay informed about the show and our upcoming guests, please sign up to our newsletter at kickstars.net. And follow us on Twitter. We are at Kickstars Show. Okay, we're back. We're talking to Rebecca and Eva from Princess Awesome. That campaign was successful. You reached $35,000 quite quickly. How many days was that?
3.5.
And those 3.5 days, when you pressed go, what was that? Were you both together?
Yes.
We were. We have a picture of ourselves pressing go.
Yes, sitting in the exact same place where we're sitting right now, actually.
Could you send that to us?
Sure.
We'd love to put it on the blog once we get this up.
Sure.
Thank you.
Was it a case of kind of 1, 2, 3, press go?
Yes. But then there was something wrong. So it was like,
oh, wait, we'll try again. So we got to push the button twice, which is kind of fun.
We screamed both times.
We also had Katy Perry's roar going on in the background.
Yeah.
Oh,
excellent. And at that point, had you emailed your mailing list, and were they people ready for it to be launched?
Spent quite a while telling everyone that the launch date was coming, and they should be prepared because we were going to bore them to death for the next month talking about our Kickstarter.
Yeah, and with saying, if you're planning to support us, you don't have to. If you can't afford it, we understand. We didn't want to pressure anyone into giving us money, but saying, if you're planning on supporting us, please do it on the first day and leave a comment and all these things that we'd read about, what sort of makes for a good start to a Kickstarter. So we had everybody ready to go, and then we press launch, and we actually got 2 backers before we had even sent out our email, because 2 people had set up to receive an email from Kickstarter when we launched. And so before we'd even sent anything out, 2 people gave us money, which was amazing.
Can you describe that moment when you realized the campaign was going to be successful?
Sure. So I was at my son's piano lesson, and Rebecca sent me a text that said, "We're on a Mighty Girl." And I clicked on my phone and turned over to where, our little campaign page on my phone. And the money just started going up faster and faster and faster. It was thousands of dollars were coming in within the course of 10, 20 minutes. And It was just I started to cry, and Rebecca was driving at the time. So she pulled over, and we realized we were going to fund within a few hours. It wasn't going to be a few weeks. It was going to be hours.
Yeah. And so just in case you or any of your audience doesn't know what a Mighty Girl is, it's a website that's kind of a clearinghouse for girl empowerment products. They feature and showcase different books and games and clothes. And they have a Facebook group of they just hit 1 million likes. Everyone should go check them out because they're amazing. And they write these very detailed kind of article-like posts on different books and projects and girls doing amazing things. And they wrote this amazing article about us that they didn't tell us they were going to do it. It just happened. And we had said beforehand, if we can just get on a Mighty Girl, I think we will be able to fund, because we know what a great,
that they're our target audience.
Yeah, they're our target audience. They're a great organization. People pay attention to what they post. And I picked up my kids from my daughter from school, and I was driving, and I checked Facebook at a stoplight, which I shouldn't have been doing. And someone had said, "Yay, you're on a Mighty Girl," and I was like, "What?" And then all of a sudden the email started coming, and I pulled over and I called Eva and I called my husband, and then Eva was out to dinner with her mother-in-law and family.
Yeah.
So I kept sending her text messages like, just past 24,000, just past 25.
Wow.
Those are good texts to get.
It was great. It was great. Yeah.
How did you reach out to Mighty Girl?
They have a contact page, and we just submitted our press release there.
And people had told us that people were telling us on Facebook that they were sharing our project with them as well.
Right. And we have a friend who forwarded, she happened to know the proprietors personally, and she forwarded it for us too. And it was just
something clicked.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you felt like, often campaigns, they can start big, they can end big, but then in the middle of a campaign, there can be a lull. Did you feel that? And if so, did you do anything to G that up?
So I think one of the things that we have said is that every goal that we put up there, we don't think we're going to make, and then it blows past there, and it just keeps surprising us, like how the response that we're getting is just continuously surprising. We put up the first stretch goal, which I think was 65,000. Is that right? Our first stretch goal was 65,000. We thought, well, it might take another 3 or 4 weeks to get, that I think we're going to get there, but it's going to take and then it was done in like 2 days. We had made it. And I was like, I don't know what to do next. So we just kind of let the campaign run, and we're like, it's going to slow down, right? Right. And it just didn't slow down. And so like the next 5 days, it kept going, and it was like, we're going to reach 100,000. It's like, what the heck? When it reached 100,000, we're like, we didn't even have a stretch goal.
Right. And we, there were a couple days where it was slower, but the thing is that I think what happened was that after A Mighty Girl, we got so much press, and that certain press that we got really gave us a bump. And looking at our kind of daily data on, Kickspire, Kicktracker, whatnot, you can see like, so that was the Huffington Post article, and that was the Guardian article, and that was the CBS morning show. That like with each one there was kind of a bump. So we did have some kind of more slower days, but because that press got spread out over the course of our whole campaign, I mean, the CBS piece came out less than a week before we ended.
And that's what pushed us over to 175.
Right.
And then within the next 3 days, we were at 200, which was our final stretch goal. And we were like, we have no more stretch goals. We have no idea.
Were your friends and family surprised, or was this something that was, of course, these two are going to pull this off?
My husband maintains that he has always said he knew this would happen, but
I think everybody was surprised by how much it spread in the media. And I mean, it was, a friend of mine told me that her mom called her and was like, I just saw Rebecca on CBS.
My neighbor across the street came out of her house and said, you were on CBS this morning. I was like, yes, I was.
So I do think, and it was fun for us to feel like our friends were, felt part of our success. People who,
because
supported us.
They really are
were
part of our success.
Yes.
Without them, we would probably have given up, because they were our main customers at the first year.
Special.
Yeah.
So amidst all this craziness, what is the single most crazy thing that's happened during the campaign or since then?
The single most crazy. I think having CBS this morning in my living room, I think that was the craziest. Or no, maybe, well, okay, it's a tie with CBS this morning and being on CNN. I think that was crazy.
I'm trying to think. I mean, one thing that's just been crazy for me is, with managing things and, trying to field an email from a reporter from People magazine and then turning around to my students, after my prep time is over and the kind of juxtaposition, because my third graders don't care. Like, so the juxtaposition of these two things going on at the same time has been kind of crazy.
Those third graders can really keep you grounded.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm very grateful to them for doing that.
So you were working the whole time of the campaign was going on, Rebecca?
Yeah, I took time off here and there when I needed to. But yes, I was.
Wow. And even still juggling kids. I mean, there's still
there's an awful lot going on.
There was this surreal moment where my son was potty training, and I was helping him in the bathroom and holding my infant in my other arm, and the Guardian called. Wow. Hi, I'm Eva. Yes, of Princess Awesome. Here I am, successful businesswoman. So, like.
There's one thing that I read that I thought was fascinating about in regards to your campaign, which was about changing the conversation about if you see that kids are wearing a certain kind of outfit, that the conversation about what those kids can maybe grow up to be is expanded. You know, that you're now talking about scientists or inventors as opposed to traditional female stereotypes. Was that part of the mission from the start?
I think that's one of the reasons why writing the blog is such a good idea. That was one of the suggestions from this successful Kickstarter tips. And writing the blog really helped us clarify what we were doing, why we were doing it, the kinds of people we thought would be interested in it, why children need this kind of thing. It was really helpful.
I mean, I think when my first thought was really just like, how come there's not a dress with the spaceship? I wasn't really thinking about my daughter's chances of being an astronaut. She was literally 2.5 and just learning to go to the bathroom and the toilet. So like, I wasn't projecting forward that far. But yes, as we sort of thought through things and thought like, what does it tell girls when, you know, they like many girls want to wear dresses and they love that. But what does it tell them when all those other things are only on the boys section? Like they're being taught that those things are for boys and not for girls.
And it's teaching them too that those things are mutually exclusive,
right?
Which is the problem, which is the thing, the issue that our line is specifically addressing. The problem isn't that girls like to dress up as princesses and like flowers and lovely feminine things. Yes. The problem is that there is nothing that does that, but also says, look, you can be a nuclear physicist and wear this fantastically lovely dress. Like that doesn't exist.
Right. Right. And we want everyone to have the message that you can wear a pink sparkly dress and be really good at math all at the same time, because they aren't mutually exclusive. Yes. Good point.
Right. That is an important distinction of that. You're not making a judgment call that it's not okay to like.
Oh, no, not at all. No. And we're absolutely not saying that flowers are stupid or
they're beautiful.
Ruffles are dumb. Like none of that is, first of all, none of that is true. And it also belittles women to say that the things that they like to wear and are interested in are dumb or, you know, or not worthy or of
yes.
you know, our intellectual rigor. It's saying that you can express yourself the way you want to express yourself and be the person that you want to be, and that you can express both of those things through your clothing.
Yes. And we also know that there are plenty of little girls who don't want dresses, and that's
absolutely
totally
fine.
And
right.
we've gotten to know some great companies that are doing things for girls who don't want to wear dresses, and yeah, and we know that there's kids like lots of different things, and we're just trying to, you know, fill this particular gap.
Do people send in requests for shirts?
Constantly.
Yes. so many great ideas, because we are not the only ones to have ever thought this. So many people have had experiences with their own daughters or in clothing stores. So many people have made their own clothes, you know, to try to fix this situation for themselves and their kids. So lots of people, you know, tractors and sports and spaceships and heavy construction machinery and
deep sea exploration.
Yes, so many things, because really lots of people have had ideas like this, and we think they're great, and we hope to be able to do all of them down the road.
And we honestly hope that other companies will also do them, because if you think about it, how many dresses with flowers does your kid have? My kid probably has 50 dresses with flowers. So if other people make dresses that have dinosaurs on them, that's great.
Yes.
More dinosaur dresses for everyone.
Yes.
Do you have any time there are designs that you've put through that your kids will kind of sniff at and kind of go, no, that's lame?
Okay, I'll tell you a really awesome story. So the day that we put up the ninja pattern, which I don't know if it's flowers with little tiny ninja hiding inside it.
Yep.
Put it up. And my 9-year-old son walked in the room and said, "Oh, Mom, are you really putting up flowers? Flowers are kind of boring," because he's, 9 years old and a boy. And I said, "But Dante, there are ninja hiding inside the flowers." And he's like, "Oh, that is so cool. Why don't I have a ninja flower pattern?" So.
And can you tell us about your designer? Is it Alishka?
Alishka, yes.
Because she sounds like a really interesting character in this story.
She is a really cool person. So she's from Tucson, and so am I.
And we, in our first line of handmade dresses, we ordered a lot of fabric from Spoonflower, which is a website where you can upload your own designs and then buy fabric, and then you can also buy other people's designs. And we spent a lot of time there looking for different, dinosaurs and math and science and all different kinds of things for our handmade line. And we had 2 designs of hers in our original line, the periodic table of elements and pie. But we loved everything on her page. We would just go through it and but look at that one and look at that. And it was so great. And so we thought, okay, we're going to have to print our own fabrics because Boomflower isn't scalable. So let's ask her if she'll design for us. And it was our first, I think it was one of the first emails we sent with our Princess Awesome email address. And I was so nervous waiting for her to write back. But she's amazing. And she is an actual rocket scientist, and she's a mom, and she feels like she fits in with our company. And we are so grateful to all of her hard work and talent.
So you found her on that website. Can you tell us that website again?
Yes, spoonflower.com. It's a very cool website. You can buy all sorts of cool fabrics and wallpaper and wrapping paper using other people's designs. It's really neat.
So let's get back to the campaign for 1 second. I want to ask about what was the toughest day of the campaign?
My toughest day during the campaign was I have a friend who runs a very popular women's jewelry online store, and she has a thing where she posts new products on Thursdays to her Facebook page. And so she posted our site, and a whole lot of negative feedback came in. Things like, oh, this stuff is really, it's really strange looking. It doesn't look like it's made well. I think I could make that myself. Really negative stuff that really depressed me. And I called Rebecca in a panic and said, nobody likes our stuff and we're not going to fund. And Rebecca said, don't worry, not our target audience. And sure enough, she was exactly right. It wasn't our target audience. So
we had a guest on recently who had, at one point, he had a similar, some feedback. I mean, both very positive, but also people who thought his idea was almost too simple. And at one point he said, but haters are going to hate and makers are going to make.
yes. That Taylor Swift song was something that we used at the beginning, because another part that was scary about launching for us is that for so long, Princess Awesome had just been something that we did ourselves and that our friends knew about, and our 600 Facebook fans, it was all very positive, and people, no one's going to say to our face, I don't like your stuff. Maybe they'll go home and say it later. We kept saying, do we think there's a vast Princess Awesome conspiracy that everyone's lying to us? But so knowing that we were just, opening ourselves up to all of the kinds of comments that people can make. And I was more prepared for the comments and that particular Facebook feed because we're manufacturing in the United States and things are more expensive. And so some people are just never going to want to spend that much money on clothing for their children. Eva and I have been some of them. We totally understand that. And so there's some people who are going to say that kind of thing or whatever. I was more prepared for it and less worried, but just being ready for all of the kinds of comments you're going to get.
That's one of the benefits of having a partner, where
absolutely. We
each
talked each other down off many cliffs.
Yes.
I want to move on to that last day of the campaign. What did that feel like, and how did you celebrate?
Well, we had a snow day.
DC doesn't handle snow particularly well, so we got 8 inches of snow that day, and the campaign ended, and we had planned to go out to dinner, but we ended up postponing for a few days. And we went out the following Sunday. Yeah. It was an amazing dinner. It's probably the best dinner of my life.
But we had right after we ended, and we continue to have so much to do that it didn't feel like a significant change in terms of our daily, responding to messages and working on getting our dresses into production as soon as possible and moving along with our new line. So there were some ways in which felt like actually less of a break than I thought there might have been.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a tool that you used to stay organized?
So one thing that I really wish we had known about before we launched was Backer Kit, which we discovered when we realized that fulfillment was going to be really kind of more than we thought it would be.
And that the surveys on Kickstarter were really hard to use.
Yeah, the surveys I'm sure the Kickstarter surveys work fine if you're doing a one thing that's one size, but we have 13 sizes now and 3 different products, and it just five different products, and it just we weren't going to be able to handle the Excel spreadsheeting of the surveys. So when we discovered Backer Kit, honestly, it was like the
Life-changing.
heavens opened and the light shone in. We were like, thank you for inventing Bagger Kid. So I think if we had known about that in the beginning, that would have made a huge difference in in a lot of things. Like we would have figured out international shipping earlier. We would have figured out fulfillment earlier. Yeah.
Part of it is that we really weren't expecting to have the success that we found. And so we were trying to do things and change things and add things as we were going through the campaign and as we're trying to do media stuff and take care of our children and do our jobs and, talk to our spouses every once in a while and sleep. And so, there were there was this wonderful afternoon where I called Rebecca and said, guess what, Rebecca, you're never going to believe this. There's this wonderful thing called a fulfillment center.
So are you on track now? Are you on track to deliver all your awards?
Yes,
we're on
absolutely
track.
On track.
What do you see as the challenges ahead?
Our biggest challenge right now is figuring out how to bring the cost down of actually making the dress. And we're looking at a variety of things that we can do to make that happen.
And also just the kind of very basic fact that we jumped 5 years ahead in our business plan. And so just kind of catching up with it. I think in the past month since we ended, or 3 weeks since we've ended, we've caught up a bit to figuring some of it out. But there was just things that we didn't think we were going to have to worry about for a while that all of a sudden became a much bigger deal to do more quickly.
Looking back, is there something that about the project that you are most proud of?
I'm proud that we actually did it.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's
me too.
Because the biggest stumbling block was sitting there in last October, thinking we can't do this. We're going to have to give up. And the money that we spent to get the project launched, it was a significant amount of money for the two of us. And we really thought, we could be putting money down a black hole. Like this might not work. And Rebecca's husband very kindly said, look, we can spend this money and you can give it a shot. And if we are out that money, fine, then we're out that money. But you tried. And now I'm really proud of us that we actually jumped in the water and we tried it.
That's something a lot of people don't bear in mind, I think. They think, well, I need this money, I'm going to kickstart the project. But actually doing that not only costs money in terms of hiring people to make videos for you, but it costs you a lot in terms of time. It took you 4 or 5 months to put this together.
Yes.
So you're actually increasing your risk with the potential of leveraging the internet.
Exactly. Yeah. We thought, we could be putting all this money in and all this time and just basically setting our company back by 5 or 6 months because it didn't work.
Right. And we also figured that, we'll give it a try. And if it doesn't work, we'll regroup and we'll go from there. And, in this conversation I had with my husband, he said, in 5 years, if we have that money in our bank account, but you never tried, we'll all regret that. And so even, as we were in the week leading up to the launch, when I was having all these doubts and in our first few days, when we were doing very well, we raised half of our money in 2 days. We were doing well, but there was still so much more to go. And, we weren't sure what was going to happen. I kept replaying that in my head. Like we're giving it a try. If it doesn't work, we'll come back to it. But we're like, the important part is that we're trying to do something pretty big.
Yeah. Well, you took a risk and it really paid off.
Yeah.
People have found your campaign, of course, really inspiring. What inspires you? Who are your heroes?
Well, I think definitely our families, especially our mothers, have been very heroic for us, the way that they managed to balance their lives, their careers, and their families. And then outside of my family, I'm extremely inspired by Miss Manners, Judith Martin, who really taught me that you don't have to be a pushover if you're polite. You can be polite and stand up for yourself. And I try to keep that as like a centering kind of mantra, like I can do this and I can still be a nice person.
And I think also there's 2 other kind of groups of people that I've been inspired by, and I think I can speak for Eva too, that we've gotten to know, through the internet, but it feels like we know them. A group of amazing women, all moms, who've started other clothing companies with similar missions, trying to give kids, boys and girls, more options than what you can find in stores. And they've all done it. Many of them did Kickstarters, very successful ones. And so using them as kind of inspiration for us. And then also, this is going to sound cheesy considering our company, but really the little girls out there, like
Yeah,
who
they are wonderful.
who we hear about and see pictures of doing all sorts of amazing things and digging in the dirt with their princess dress on. Someone said her daughter's favorite color was mud on pink, which I just thought was so adorable. And so many girls out there who love so many different things, and that really is inspiring and keeps us going.
You know, that's another company name, I think. Mud on
Pink.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
or maybe it's the name of another metal band.
Yeah, I do have to say, jump in. I love your jokes that you tell in your updates. You know,
We love bad jokes.
Yes.
Some of those have been made up by our children.
I've got a good joke that my little boy likes to tell, or a good bad joke.
Please share it.
Okay, it's what do you call a three-legged donkey?
What?
Wonky.
That's great.
You can have that one. It's on our...
We'll put that in our next update.
Okay, we're going to take one last short break. We'll be back in a second to hear your advice to our listeners with 3 top tips for crowdfunding success.
We'll be back with more from Rebecca and Eva in just a moment. Here at Kickstars, we have many more fascinating guests coming up for you, each with a unique story to tell and new advice to share. Make sure you subscribe to Kickstars on iTunes so you don't miss out. In our next episode, we get into the world of film with our guest, Mark Labato, a London-based director who took to Kickstarter to fund his short film, Blue Borsalino. Next time on Kickstars.
So we're back and we're talking with Rebecca Melsky and Eva St. Clair about their fantastic Kickstarted project, Princess Awesome. So both of you two, what advice do you have to our listeners who would like to start their own campaign? Could you give us the 3 Princess Awesome tips for crowdfunding success?
So my first tip would be for right around your launch time and when you launch to just do as much media outreach as you can. We sent literally hundreds of press releases, and we spent a long time before we sent them thinking about exactly who we should send it to and coordinating it. And at the end of the day, we just sent it to everyone because we got only maybe a 1% response rate. And then that turned out to be really great, but we had to send a lot. And so send a lot and don't be disheartened when you don't hear back. Just keep sending it, send it again. People are busy. They won't get annoyed. So that would be my first tip.
And to add on, like, you never know who's going to pick it up.
Right.
We had several radio and TV stations pick it up, and just from the press release, they didn't use anything else.
Yeah. So send it out.
My number 1 tip is to stay positive, especially when you're discussing your product and when you're discussing people who do the same kinds of things as you. When you're responding to criticism, feedback, anything, just keep staying positive. Don't say anything negative about other people. Don't trash others. And I think in conjunction with that, let the internet do its work. I don't know what we kind of learned that along the way. Like, you don't have to respond to everything, and people will fight your battles for you in many ways.
And then we spent a long time working on our campaign page and really tweaking our video to make a video that really communicated what we wanted and that told our story and that got our message across right away. So I would say spend time on it. Read the things that are out there about what makes a good video, but then make a video that tells your story as clearly as you can.
And our last tip is get a sample made of what you're trying to do. Because first of all, you can actually show people what you're making. And that's really important because people want to know what it is that you're actually making. And second, because it actually teaches you what it's going to take to make that thing. And we would really have way underestimated the amount of time that our product was going to take to create and ship, which would have resulted in very disappointed people asking us where our stuff was by putting the wrong ship date.
Okay, so we've got number 1, media outreach, the pre-campaign campaign. You've got to contact as many people as possible.
Yeah,
number
and
2,
throughout the campaign too. Sorry.
And throughout the campaign, of course. Number 2, stay positive, especially in the face of criticism. Number 3, invest time on your campaign page. And number 4, get a sample made. Show people what you're making and be aware of what's involved in making it.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That's 4 tips. Once again, Rebecca and Eva have over-delivered.
Yes.
They have far exceeded their original goals.
I like the stretch goal, the number 4.
Thank you.
I wanted on the video you just mentioned, though, about making that right. Can you tell us that first draft of the video, how different was it from the final draft?
It was pretty different.
It was terrible.
It was pretty different. And I was really disheartened and was like, oh no, this isn't what we wanted. Like, do we have to redo it? How are we going to, we had called in all these favors from these amazing people who were helping us with the video, and it was like, how are we going to do this? And so I sat and like thought about it and like re-scripted it. And like, I mean, it was way more of us talking.
It was boring.
It was boring. No one cares about us talking. They want to see cute little girls in cute dresses jumping around. So it was pretty different. And bless our video editor who bore with us through all of our changes and saying, okay, at exactly 1 minute and 8 seconds, can you actually do this instead of that? And here you need to do that. Like, change this word to that word.
And this is one instance where it really did help to have a partner, because I hate doing revisions and drafts and things. And I was kind of like, oh, well, it's not that great. Let's just put it up anyway. Rebecca was like, no, we can't do that. It's terrible. We need to redo it. So that was really good.
And it got to a place where we were both really,
and I was like, wow, this was a good idea. I'm really glad I did the video.
And did you know, the two of you, that it wasn't working, or did you test it out with friends of yours and they told you?
No, it was just us.
Well, and my husband, because I showed it to him and he was like, like he was trying to be supportive, but you know how with your spouse you can read like through what they're saying, and it was like, oh gosh, okay, like we need to go back to the drawing board again.
Well, it was really effective having the kids in the playground speaking with you.
Yes. And that we also kind of figured out, as we knew we wanted to have some interviews, but we didn't know exactly what we wanted. And as we were doing the interviews, we kind of hit on this stream of asking them if they'd seen dresses with this on it. But we didn't know that going in. It kind of took spending a day in the park with 25 little girls.
And I just want to like reiterate the amount of time we put into this. Like, the day at the playground was all day. We were at the playground. Two different playgrounds from like 8:30 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon.
And coordinating people coming and asking different people to come and giving them food and coffee.
And shooting our part of the video was another entire full day. And then doing the photo shoot with the children in the dresses was another full day. So like,
plus all of the edits.
The video is 2 minutes long. So just, it's really, we can only emphasize that we put a lot of effort into this. So if you're doing a campaign,
and we don't really even know exactly how many hours it took our editor.
We did not pay her enough, whatever it was.
But you pressed all the right buttons and did a terrific job with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we wrap up, it's time for guest picks. So this is where our guests tell us about another crowdfunding campaign, past or present, that they think is cool. So Rebecca and Eva, what have you got for us?
So our favorite campaign right now is a project on Kickstarter called Budding STEM that has a mission that is very similar to ours, and it's run by two moms in the other Washington, in Washington State in Seattle, and they're also making clothes for girls with dinosaurs and trains and rocket ships on them.
Yep.
And they have leggings and t-shirts and dresses and
underwear,
and their stretch goal is underwear.
So we really hope they make their underwear stretch goal, because so many people have asked us to make underwear.
Yeah.
So they're making the underwear. So go help them make the underwear, everybody.
Right. And they have a very different aesthetic than we do. And like, if your daughter wants a dinosaur dress, there is room in her closet for both of ours. So go support. They've made their goal, which is great, but they're looking to get to their stretch goal and offer trains as another theme. And they're just really great. We talked to them for a while before they launched, and we're really happy to know them. We actually had supported them, and then I went to look and saw that they were like $25 away from their goal. And Eva had supported them to get clothes for her daughter, and I knew I was going to add money to get clothes for my daughter, and I was like, I'm going to do it right now, and we'll be the ones to put them over. So
fantastic.
And what was their name again?
It's Budding, Budding, STEM, STEM.
And you both mentioned there was campaigns that you looked at from the past that inspired you. Was there one in particular?
Girls Will Be she has become a very close friend, and we loved her campaign. She actually has kids on Playground too, and knowing now how much effort our video took, I can only imagine hers must have been even more because of the number of children in it. So that's Girls Will Be. like t-shirts and shorts that are her tagline is girl clothes without the girly. So she's kind of like our counterpart.
And where can people find out about that?
girlswillbehq.com.
We'd like to say a massive thank you to our guests today, Rebecca and Eva from Princess Awesome. It's been a real pleasure having you on the Kickstarter show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been really fun.
To be here.
Where can people go online to find out more about you?
princess-awesome.com.
And are you on Facebook and Twitter?
Yes. We are on Twitter.
We're on Twitter too.
At princess31415.
That's Pi, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Aha. I love it.
That's one of their more popular outfits.
Yep.
Yes.
Our most popular, actually.
Most popular. I'm wondering, is there a quote that you have tacked to your office wall or something that kind of keeps you inspired? Words to live by?
Well, we kind of said it already.
Well, actually, if you want to hear one that's actually that I did tack up, it was when we were first starting out. I wrote up Lady Macbeth, screw your courage to the sticking place, and stuck that on the wall. It starts out, Macbeth says, if we should fail, and Lady Macbeth says, we fail, but screw your courage to the sticking place and will not fail.
Excellent. Wow. Spot on. Excellent.
She was about to kill someone.
So very different,
different scenario, but yeah.
And then, I really also kept that, what my husband said to me, like, we're giving it a try. We're going to do our best. We're going to try it. And like, no one's going to regret having tried.
Yes.
So we've got your husband and William Shakespeare.
It's good company.
Yeah.
He will be delighted to have been put in such company.
Rebecca, Eva, thank you so much for joining us on Kickstarters, and we wish you every success with Princess Awesome.
Thank you so much.
This was just so much fun.
Yeah, really.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you both.
You've been listening to Kickstars, the show about successful crowdfunding campaigns and the people who make them happen. A big thank you once again to our guests Rebecca Melsky and Eva St. Clair of Princess Awesome for their time and insights in this episode. To find out more about them, visit princess-awesome.com. And if you'd like to find out about upcoming guests on this show, why not join our mailing list at kickstars.net.
If you'd like to be a guest on Kickstars and share your story of crowdfunding success, then write to us by email at hello@kickstars.net with your name and a link to your campaign page. Our thanks to the very talented songwriter Kim Bookbinder for the Kickstars theme music. For more on Kim, do check out kimbookbinder.com. Thanks for listening.
Kickstars, gonna kick it with Pete and Mike. Kickstars, interviews behind the hype. Kickstars, Kickstars. What do you do? What do you say to make crowdfunding go your way? Kickstars, Kickstars. Kickstars, Kickstars, Kickstars. Your shake brings all the backers to the yard.
Now that's what I call epic.